It's not the kind of welcome home you would expect. Coming through U.S. Customs, it's routine to have to open your bags and maybe answer some questions. But certain Americans coming home from trips abroad say they've been singled out for intrusive and degrading treatment. And it may surprise you to know that it would be within the government's rights to do it to you. Some of the descriptions you'll hear are pretty graphic. Here's Rob Stafford.
May I have your attention, please, for those passengers arriving on Virgin Atlantic Flight 20 bags have arrived on carousel number 4.
On a March evening last year at O'Hare International Airport in Chicago, a woman was trying to get home. Her name is Denise Pullian, and she was trying to get home to her 6-year-old daughter.
Hey, baby.
Denise, in March of 1998, after working with children in Northern Ireland, Denise Pullian flew into Chicago. She arrived at U.S. Customs, the front line of defense in our nation's war on drugs. Last year alone, agents at airport terminals, drugs that people tried to smuggle in suitcases, clothes, even sometimes in their bodies.
I put my luggage on the car, turned, and there was a woman standing behind me. And she had a uniform on.
Pullian says the customs agent asked her some questions. Why was she traveling? How long had she stayed? Who had bought her ticket? Then the agent searched her bags.
Wearing loose clothing, and I just need to, pat you down.
Pullian says the agent led her to a small room, then shut the door.
And she told me, I want you to turn and face the wall and put your hands against the wall. And she started with my neck, and she felt my neck and my arms, she felt my breast, and she felt my waist, and she felt my crotch and in my legs.
And found nothing illegal. Pullian says she told the agent she wanted to know
what a drug dealer looked like.
And Pullian says the female agent
went through all of my articles, and you saw the Kotexes and the tampons, so you know my period's on.
The male supervisor refused to let her appeal to someone else. Then he left.
I was real clear. I had to do what they wanted me to do to get out of that room. So I pulled my clothing down, and
Pullian was not smuggling drugs inside her body.
And I said, I was married 8 years, and my husband never saw what you people saw here.
And with that, Denise Pullian finally cleared United States Customs. The next morning, Pullian says she called Customs but got no answers. So she decided she had to go public with it ordeal.
I called
Renee Ferguson.
She says this, and I was very skeptical about it.
Ferguson figured Pullian had some kind of background in crime or drugs, but found nothing. So she called the head of Customs at O'Hare.
He said, oh yes, we strip search people and
come forward in response to Ferguson's report, each with a story that sounded remarkably the same.
I had arrived at Chicago O'Hare.
I was asked to step aside, take my clothes off,
strapped her hip. So I did as she told me to do.
I took down my shorts, took down my underwear, and I had to bend over.
And then I was told to remove the pad.
And you feel stripped of your rights, and you get no explanation.
I felt like I was being raped.
All of them with only one obvious thing in common.
I think they stopped me because I was black, and that they could get away with it.
Why me? The thing that I was always afraid of.
A similar ordeal of getting stopped at Customs, then searched by female agents had drugs, but also
look at us and see how much we resemble each other. Whatever you see in terms of resemblance will tell you what profile we fit.
Aside from skinks, from a travel agent, banker, state worker, all the way to a musician, and even someone in a wheelchair. Jacqueline Jones is a Chicago attorney who says she was strip-searched after returning from Germany.
You were traveling with 3 other people.
Oh, yeah.
You were stopped.
Gwendolyn Richards is a theology student. Karen Blocker says she was searched along with handicapped sister Mildred.
She doesn't know what's going on, but, they made her.
Sharon Anderson is a Chicago school teacher.
As you left that room, how did you feel?
I felt totally humiliated. I felt raped.
To those who might say you're playing the race card, what do you say?
This is the race card.
Really appear to be a problem involving black women because Pullian's TV story prompted black women to come forward? The answer appears to be no. That's a far higher proportion than any other group.
So could it be that black women get searched more or hide them in their body to get them past Customs? Some of these mules have been black women.
But Daylight found similar reports. Numbers show that in Chicago, black women who were strip searched were not the most likely to carry drugs. They were by far the least. More
to be an acknowledgement, someone in the system, this has transpired. We know what you've done is wrong. Now, you need to acknowledge that.
Are officials in Chicago really targeting black women? When we come back, returning to our story, dozens of Americans coming into Chicago, a rising number of them had one thing in common. They were black women. But degrading as the episodes were, the story told by a woman returning to Fort Lauderdale may be...
It's like I was an animal or something, the way I was treated.
Janelle Denson says 2 years ago, when she was 7 months pregnant, some questions about the trip, then handcuffed her and took her with no explanation to a nearby hospital. There, Denson says, a doctor did an ultrasound like this one to see if she was carrying drugs.
I just don't believe you.
Denson says the hospital laxative. Denson feared it would hurt her baby.
So I told her I wasn't going to drink it, so then I was sitting there in the bed. She says, well, it'll sit here until you drink it.
Shackled to her hospital bed, unable to contact her family, and made to drink the laxative until Customs finally decided.
Out of the country when it happened, not when I came back here.
Denson is now suing Customs and the hospital where she was detained, saying they falsely imprisoned her and harmed her unborn. Janelle Denson's claims were so extreme that Dateline checked out her background, her husband's background, her hospital records, immigration records, and customs reports. So we were curious, had we just stumbled across one amazing case to add to the Chicago women who said they were strip searched for no reason? Complaints from more than 130 people claiming they'd been strip searched for no reason by customs officials at the 20 largest complaints by themselves don't necessarily prove a pattern. It's worth noting that at least three...
There is no racial or ethnic basis for searching anyone.
Ray Kelly is the commissioner, the top man at the United States Customs Service. He was appointed last summer, so he was...
The incidence of people carrying drugs into the country on their person has increased. Narcotics on the person or in the person. This is a major challenge for the Customs Service.
The problem, he says, is that Customs lists 43 characteristics of passengers which, in combination, could lead to a personal search and giving evasive answers to questions.
It may be someone traveling by themselves, someone who may be acting in a rather furtive way.
But he stresses that the number of people who get strip searched is far below 1% of the...
Absolutely not.
Commissioner Kelly says customs agents are trained to have a greater chance of getting searched. And in fact, Dateline has obtained customs search reports that show that the overwhelming majority of the Chicago women we spoke to had cocaine and heroin.
On those flights, you may have a preponderance of a certain ethnic group, and that may well result in...
The preponderance of certain ethnic groups come in from certain countries. Officials said they had no figures, nationwide search figures for the year 1997, which in any way. The numbers Customs provided showed nearly twice as many white men as black women were subjected to these kinds of searches. Outnumber any other group of passengers. They travel in far greater numbers than black women, so it makes sense that a far greater number of white men would be searched. A professor of statistics at Harvard University to do just that. According to the statistician, black females have the highest rate by a big margin of strip searches by customs agents. In fact, a black woman was 8 times...
Group or racial group.
You know and I know that there's a difference between policy and practice. And the practice seems to be that black women are stopped much more often, yet they're not found with drugs.
Well, I can't explain every search.
We showed Commissioner Kelly many of the numbers we've just showed you. Even numbers that showed black women who were searched were the least likely to be carrying drugs. But he maintained his position that Customs does not target black from a source country. As we've said, others came in by Customs' own admission are not known for a lot of drug smuggling. Barcelona, Beijing, Frankfurt, and London. There were some women stopped over the years in Chicago, valid reasons listing Customs evasive. But when we looked through the search reports and read the entire handbook, we were struck by how wide-ranging and if you're too talkative or too quiet,
if you're self-employed or unemployed, person is wearing a long-sleeve shirt on a hot day. I bet you wear a long-sleeve shirt during the summer here in Washington, D.C. Does that mean that you...
Investigation.
However, we found him nervous, traveling a lot.
You said that this is a thankless job for U.S. Customs agents.
Clearly.
But for the people who are searched, this is an horrendous and humiliating experience.
It is a unpleasant experience for both that is extremely distasteful for anyone who goes through it. If someone did not receive an adequate explanation, yes, I think they deserve.
Before Commissioner Kelly was in charge, a form letter says, "We are not at all sorry. As a matter of fact, we are pleased that you have complied with our laws."
If you were at the airport and this happened to your wife and somebody said this to you,
we need a less intrusive, less unpleasant process. So we're looking at all aspects of it.
Longer being handed out. In fact, he's replaced it with a brochure that acknowledges how invasive these searches can be and says the Customs is making other changes, figure out better ways of deciding who gets strip searched. He wants a higher rate of success for such an invasive procedure.
I'm not happy with the fact that 25 or 30% of the people who are, that number is way too high.
It remains a fact of life that if you go through U.S. Customs, there's a chance, however small, that you may be forced into a strip search. And there's not a lot you can do about it.
It is still...
Drugs kill people every day. Stop this problem.
How much drugs could I supply to the United States?
Bring it in on your body.
On my body.
The answer to that may surprise you. This Customs videotape shows how $50,000 and more than 35,000 new fixes for drug users.
Customs will tell you they have a zero-tolerance policy.
Right, absolutely. Because I don't have any.
Right.
Do these agents have to search some innocent people to make sure the guilty ones don't get through?
But that's not the way the criminal justice system works. You're presumed innocent. You're not presumed guilty. In this particular case, they decided we were guilty.
Right.
Now these women are suing U.S. Customs in what they hope will be money as compensation for the humiliation they say they continue to feel as innocent victims of these strip searches to win the war on drugs.
Comes unless somebody steps forward. We are stepping forward.
Strip searched. Commissioner Kelly has appointed a special task force to investigate. A report is due in July.